You teach people how to treat you. Let that sink in. Every single interaction, every time you let something slide, every time you bite your tongue when you should speak up, every time you accept less than you deserve, you're setting the standard. You're showing people what's acceptable, what they can get away with, how far they can push you. People are watching. They're testing you. Sometimes they don't even realize they're doing it, but make no mistake, they are. They're learning from the way you react, from the way you carry yourself, from the way you allow certain things to pass without a word. And if you don't check them, if you don't correct them, if you don't make it known where your line is, guess what? That line, it doesn't exist to them. They'll walk all over it, they'll stretch it, they'll erase it. Not because they're bad people, but because that's human nature. The world doesn't give you what you deserve, it gives you what you demand. Think about it. When a lion walks through the jungle, does it need to roar for everything in its path to respect it? No, it moves with certainty, with power. It doesn't have to prove itself. Its very presence commands respect. And that's exactly how you need to carry yourself. When you let someone disrespect you once, you've just trained them. You've just given them permission to do it again and again. And before you know it, that little thing you let slide, that joke at your expense, that dismissive tone, that time they cut you off mid-sentence, that time they ignored your feelings, it becomes a habit, not just for them, but for you. Because now, you're used to being treated that way. You've adapted to it. You've normalized it. And that's the beginning of the end of your self-respect. You think respect comes from being nice, from being agreeable, from letting things go? No. Respect comes from making it clear what you will and will not tolerate. It comes from holding your ground even when it's uncomfortable. It comes from looking someone in the eye and letting them know without a single doubt that will not happen again. And listen, you don't have to be rude, you don't have to be aggressive, but you do have to be firm. You have to be unwavering, because the moment you hesitate, the moment you soften your stance, people take note. They see weakness, and weakness invites disrespect. Start paying attention. Look around. Who treats you like an afterthought? Who talks over you? Who dismisses your ideas? Who only calls when they need something? Who disrespects your time, your energy, your kindness? And more importantly, why do they feel comfortable doing that? Because you allowed it. But that changes today. From this moment on, you demand better. Not with words, with actions, with presence, with boundaries. You stop explaining yourself. You stop apologizing for having standards. You stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable. You walk like you mean it. You speak with conviction. You cut off access to anyone who doesn't respect you. You don't beg for better treatment. You expect it. And watch what happens. Watch how people start listening when you speak. Watch how they measure their words before talking to you. Watch how the wrong people disappear and the right ones show up. Watch how your entire world shifts because you finally decided to set the tone. Because respect isn't given, it's taught, it's commanded. And from now on, you are the teacher. You have to know your worth. Not just say it, not just think about it when you're feeling good, not just repeat it when life is easy. You have to know it so deeply that it's unshakable. Because if you don't know your worth, the world will decide it for you. And trust me, it will always undervalue you. People can smell uncertainty. They can feel when you're unsure of yourself, when you're questioning whether you deserve better, when you're waiting for someone else to tell you what you're worth. And the moment they sense that hesitation, that's the moment they take control. They start setting your price. They start deciding how much space you get to take up, how much respect you deserve, how much attention, how much love, how much success, because you left it up to them. But here's the truth. Nobody gets to decide your value but you. Not your boss, not your family, not your friends, not your partner, you. And the second you let someone else determine it, you've already lost. Think about this. If you walked into a store and saw a luxury watch priced at $5, what would you assume? It's fake, it's worthless, because something valuable knows it's valuable. It doesn't beg to be recognized. It doesn't go on clearance just because no one bought it that day. It doesn't lower its price to make people comfortable. And neither should you. Stop acting like a bargain. Stop waiting for someone to pick you. Stop discounting yourself to fit into places that don't even deserve you. Stop explaining why you deserve respect, love, success, opportunity. You don't explain value. You are valuable. Period. But listen closely. Knowing your worth isn't just about saying, I deserve better. It's about living like you do. It's about walking into a room and owning your space. It's about speaking with confidence, not questioning every word that comes out of your mouth. It's about setting boundaries so strong that people know before they even try, they either step up or they step out. And yes, this means some people will leave. Some won't like the new version of you, the one who doesn't tolerate nonsense, the one who doesn't beg, the one who doesn't settle. Let them go. Because the people who can't handle your worth were never meant to be in your life long term. And don't think this is just about how others treat you. It starts with you. If you waste your own time, don't be surprised when others do the same. If you speak down to yourself, don't be shocked when others follow suit. If you keep putting yourself last, guess what? The world will keep putting you last too. Raise your standards. Respect your own time. Speak to yourself with power. Carry yourself like someone who knows exactly who they are, what they bring to the table, and what they refuse to accept. Because the world will always treat you like you treat yourself. And when you finally move like that, when you walk, talk, and live like you know your worth, everything changes. Power isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. Real power doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't prove itself. It doesn't shout over the noise, trying to convince people it belongs. Power is quiet because it doesn't have to announce itself. It's just there, solid, unshaken, absolute. Look at the most respected people in any room. They're not the ones talking the loudest. They're not the ones forcing their way into conversations, trying to make their presence known. No, they're the ones who don't need to try. They sit, they observe, they listen, and when they finally do speak, the whole room goes silent. Why? Because everyone knows what they say matters. That's power. That's presence. That's respect. Weakness is loud. Insecurity is loud. Desperation is loud. The person who constantly brags, constantly seeks validation, constantly tries to prove their worth, that's not strength. That's fear. Fear of being overlooked. Fear of being insignificant. Fear of being nothing if the world doesn't clap for them. But the person who knows their value, who trusts in their abilities, who walks into a room knowing they belong without saying a word, that person, that's the one who owns the space. That's the one people gravitate toward. That's the one who commands respect without ever demanding it. It's in the way you carry yourself. It's in the way you hold eye contact, firm but never aggressive. It's in the way you stand, shoulders back, chest open, not shrinking, not taking up less space to make others comfortable. It's in the way you pause before you speak, not rushing, not trying to fill the silence with nervous words, but letting your presence settle first. Powerful people don't explain themselves. They don't over-justify their decisions. They don't seek approval for every move they make. They make a decision, they stand by it. And if someone doesn't like it, that's their problem, not theirs. And let's get one thing straight. This isn't arrogance. This isn't ego. This is certainty. This is self-mastery. This is the kind of quiet strength that makes people respect you before they even know why. Because when you're truly powerful, you don't chase attention. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to be seen. You simply are. And that's what makes the whole world stop and take notice. Set boundaries, not soft ones. Not the kind that bend every time someone pushes. Not the kind that disappear the moment someone gets upset. Real boundaries. Solid, unbreakable, non-negotiable. Because without them, you're a doormat. And people, They will walk all over you if you let them. You think people will automatically respect your time, your energy, your kindness? They won't. Not because they're bad, but because human nature will always push limits. It will always test what's allowed. It will always take as much as it can unless you say enough. The moment you allow one small disrespect, one little overstep, one time where you say, it's fine when it's really not, you've just trained them. You've told them, this is okay, you can do this again. And next time, it won't be just a little thing, it'll be bigger, it'll be worse. And soon, you won't even recognize yourself because your peace, your self-respect, your confidence, it will all be buried under the weight of what you allowed. But here's the truth. People only treat you how you allow them to treat you. And if you don't set boundaries, they'll set them for you. They'll decide what your time is worth. They'll decide when they get to show up and when they get to disappear. They'll decide when their words matter more than yours, when their needs come before yours, when their disrespect gets excused, because you never put a stop to it. But today, that stops. Because boundaries, they're not about controlling others. They're about teaching people how to treat you. They're about drawing a line so clearly, so unapologetically, that the moment someone even thinks about crossing it, they know this is not the one to mess with. And let me be clear, boundaries are not just spoken, they are enforced. Because the first time someone steps over the line and you let it slide, that boundary no longer exists. So what does this look like? It looks like saying no and meaning it. It looks like refusing to explain yourself when you don't owe anyone an explanation. It looks like walking away from conversations, from people, from situations that drain you, that disrespect you, that don't align with who you are. It looks like being strong enough to lose people who can't handle the fact that you respect yourself. And trust me, some will leave. Some will get mad. Some will say you've changed. Good. Because the only people who get upset when you set boundaries are the ones who benefited from you having none. Stand firm, stay strong, and watch how the wrong ones fall away and the right ones start showing up. Respect yourself first. Before you demand it from anyone else, before you expect the world to give it to you, before you get angry at how people treat you, look in the mirror. Because the way the world treats you is just a reflection of how you treat yourself. You let people waste your time, that's because you waste it yourself. You let people talk down to you, that's because somewhere deep inside, you're doing the same thing. You let people walk all over you, that's because you haven't drawn the line for yourself. People don't decide your worth, you do. And if you don't act like you deserve respect, don't be surprised when no one gives it to you. Look around. Every time you said it's okay when it wasn't. Every time you made yourself small so someone else could feel big. Every time you held your tongue when you should have spoken up. That was you disrespecting yourself first. And let me tell you something. Self-respect is not a request. It's not something you negotiate. It's not something you put on only when you feel strong. It's a standard. One that never drops. One that doesn't depend on mood, on situation, on who's around. It's a way of life. You don't have time for half-effort friendships. You don't have time for relationships that drain you. You don't have time for people who only come around when they need something. Because your time is valuable, your energy is sacred, and if you don't treat it that way, why would anyone else? Stop over-explaining, stop over-apologizing, stop waiting for permission to take up space. You're already here. You already belong. You don't need anyone's validation to exist fully, to walk with power, to stand tall. Start talking to yourself with strength. Start showing up for yourself like you would for someone you love. Start walking into every room like you deserve to be there, because you do. And watch what happens. Watch how people start adjusting to the way you carry yourself. Watch how they speak to you differently. Watch how the respect you give yourself sets the tone for how the world sees you. Because when you respect yourself first, you won't even have to ask for it from others. They'll just know. Not everyone is meant to stay in your life. Not everyone deserves access to you. Some people come as lessons, some as tests, and some to remind you of what you will never tolerate again. But here's the truth. When you start respecting yourself, when you set standards that don't bend, when you carry yourself with power, something incredible happens. The right people stay, the wrong ones disappear. And you have to let them go. Because the ones who can't handle your self-respect, they were never meant to be in your life long term. They liked the version of you that was easy to manipulate, easy to take advantage of, easy to control. They liked you when you tolerated their disrespect, when you made excuses for their behavior, when you put their needs above your own. But the moment you change, the moment you demand more, the moment you refuse to settle, they start to fade. And that's exactly how it should be. Stop chasing people who treat you like an option. Stop holding on to relationships that drain you. Stop thinking that history is a reason to keep someone around. It doesn't matter how long you've known them. It doesn't matter what you've been through together. If someone disrespects you, if they take you for granted, if they refuse to meet the standards you've set, they're not your people. And yes, it will hurt. Yes, it will feel lonely at times. Yes, you'll question if you made the right choice. But let me tell you something. Peace is better than forced connections. Respect is better than fake loyalty. And being alone for a while is better than being surrounded by people who don't value you. But here's the best part. The right ones will stay. The ones who truly respect you. The ones who celebrate your growth instead of feeling threatened by it. The ones who rise to meet your standards instead of trying to drag you back down. The ones who see your worth without you having to prove it. And when you build a life